What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Monday, April 1st. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. Got your app, take it on the go, take a worldwide video stream, also up and rolling on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Hopefully, all had a fantastic weekend and you are ready to hit up a brand new work week here. What do we got on the good old game plan for us this morning? Brewers got in a little spring cleaning, sweeping, getting the brooms out against the New York Mets, sweeping the New York Mets to go 3-0 to start their season yesterday, picking up a 4-1 victory over the Mets. Colin Ray picking up the win. They got a win Saturday, 7-6, and then their opening day on Friday. Freddie Peralta only giving up one hit. The whole team for the Brewers has given up one hit. Freddie Peralta picking up the W, 3-1 victory back on Friday too. So Brewers starting their season off perfect. I know it's just 3 games and we got 159 more of these suckers to get going here, but man, how do you not feel good about that? Or Pittsburgh started 4-0, so give it to the Pirates. They started off hot over there too, but man, we got lots to catch up on here. We got the whole Rhys Hoskins. Mets don't like Rhys Hoskins right now, but Christian Yelich starting off hot. Jackson Cheerio, Bryce Terang starting off hot from the plate too. I mean, again, just 3 games, an incredibly small sample size, but Bryce Terang's already got credited for 4 stolen bases right now. 4 stolen bases for Bryce Terang. 26 all of last year. Dude's got 4 already. So, what are your first impressions from what you've seen from just the first 3 games? Because we're all about first impressions, right? On the flip side, you've got writers in the media in New York with the Mets saying, "Oh boy, not not a great first impression with the team." And on the other side, you got Milwaukee with just 3 games into this season. Again, not to try to get too excited, but kind of have a little attitude about them, maybe. Kind of have a little bit of, dare we say, swagger with them right now, taking on the mindset of their manager. I saw that as a popular phrase or analogy used over the weekend there. But your first impressions from this crew, from this Brew Crew squad. What do you got? What do you think? So, plenty of Brewers chats coming up this morning, especially to lead things off here in just a little bit. The crew will have the off day today before their home opener tomorrow. Before their home opener tomorrow against the Minnesota Twins. Twins also taking 2 out of 3 against the Kansas City Royals to begin their season. So, quick border battle in the friendly confines of American Family Field down in Milwaukee. So, baseball talk coming up here. We've got now that we are in April, draft month. We are just a few weeks away, a few short weeks away from the NFL draft officially beginning here. What do we got here? 1, 2, 3, about 3.5 weeks away from when the draft kicks off for the NFL. So with it, now that it is April 1st, and we're just about 3-4 weeks away, whatever I just said there, we are going to start to kick off kind of our Packers draft prospect preview series. Long name over there. But we're going to start to kind of take a look at 1 or 2 draft prospects that have been attached to Green Bay, probably like some of the most popular players that have been attached to Green Bay, whether it's been mock drafts or whether it's been fans kind of talking about them. But we're going to take a look every day from now until about draft week or the draft or draft day on Thursday, April 25th, we'll take a look at one or two draft prospects that have been attached to Green Bay, and not just, a random name thrown out there, but I'm going to try to take a look at guys that have been, popular in, let's say, some of the national mock drafts out there, or maybe, coming in to visit Green Bay on a top 30 prospect, this, that, the other thing. Just popular names that we've talked about or we've seen out there. And we're going to begin it today with two names, offensive and defensive player. Cooper DeJean from Iowa, the safety, probably one of the most popular prospects attached to Green Bay, whether it's been because of a fan perspective, or, obviously with a need, maybe with another safety over there. But we're going to take a look at him, and we're going to take a look at Graham Barton, the offensive lineman from Duke. So taking a look at a defensive player and an offensive player for the Pack here. And what we're doing is just kind of giving you a little bit of a background, giving you a little bit of a scouting report on these two, and kind of getting your thoughts, whether you like that person or not. We'll try to get to as many prospects as we possibly can leading up to the draft. So while I know on certain days we may be talking about a couple of players that you're not high on, or you're high on a couple other players, we'll eventually get to one of your players. Okay, so we're just going to try to hit up one or two a day. We're not going to do all of them in a single day there. So, but that'll come up probably in the next hour here. Hoops wise, the Final Four is set in the men's college basketball tournament. UConn taking on Alabama. NC State continuing their hot streak, their hot play. They have advanced to the Final Four, where they will now take on Purdue. So just 2 1 seeds left. We got an 11 seed in there and a 4 seed in Alabama. So the end is almost upon us here. But that's the men's side. The women's side for the Final Four here. Well, we've got a couple more games coming at you today, tonight, I should say, including a big one, Iowa versus LSU. That's will decide who goes to the Final Four. You after that, another big time matchup. But for the NIT, you've got the Badgers in the grade 8 St. Louis tonight at the Kohl Center for hopefully a spot to get into their Final Four. But Wisconsin's favored in this one. They're favored. If you look at the matchup predictor, Badgers 70% favored on there. So still plenty of college hoops to be paying attention to out there. Bucks wise, picked up a W against Atlanta on Saturday with no Damian Lillard. So we've got just 8 games left to go. The Bucks still in that second seed in the Eastern Conference standings. When you're taking a look at it, they're now about 2.5 up over Cleveland, 3 over the Knicks. Cleveland back in that third seed in the Eastern Conference here. I got a couple more team, or I should say just one more team that has clinched a playoff spot, and that's in the Western Conference with the Denver Nuggets, 52-23. Minnesota's still in that third seed, but just one game back from the number 1 overall seed. So getting close. We should, in the next couple days here, get some more teams wrapped up and clinched. But a lot of positioning still going on here for both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. So we got plenty of hoops chats, college and pro, to get to here. It is the weekend hangover. So what was the best and the worst, or the highlights or the lowlights from the weekend, or from the past couple days? I want to hear from you, okay? So let me know. Hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912. 715-830-1912, Shoe Doctors bullpen line. Also, we'll get to a little Are You Serious Nugget fun fact, stat, whatever we want to call it, a little bit later on here. We'll get to local sports roundup with Amundsen's sponsored by Amundsen's Appliance Center. That'll come up about a little past 8 o'clock for us this morning. So got a full slate, man. We got a full slate. We're going to talk some NFL draft, as now we are in draft month. Start to preview some prospects. Plenty of hoops with the NCAA men's Final Four. Women's NIT we're paying attention to as well with the Badgers. Women's will wrap up their Elite Eight to see who moves on to the Final Four a little bit later on this evening. But we're going to begin things off talking some baseball. Brewers can't ask for a better start to a season with the new manager, a lot of young players mixed in with some new veteran players like a Reese Hoskins, with current veterans like Christian Yelich and such. But you cannot ask for a better start to the season to begin 3-0, to win all three of your games on the road, too. On the road. And I mean, it don't get any better for this. Pat Murphy, perfect win percentage right now in his Brewers career, 3-0, baby. But first impressions from this Brewers team. First impressions from this Brewers team. I know it's just 3 games into it, but what kind of stood out to you? What yeah, I guess pretty much what stood out to you? What really kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I like that. Sure seems like maybe this team, and again, I know I'm going to keep saying this because I don't want to overreact too much, but just 3 games in, but it sure seems like maybe this team has kind of taken on the personality of their manager and Pat Murphy too. You know, you had the whole Reese Hoskins, Jeff McNeil sort of stuff there, but this team was fun to watch this weekend. We'll see if they can keep it up for 158 more games after this, right? 158, 160, 161, 150, 159 more games left to go here. So let's talk some Brewers, shall we? To open up things here. Start to hit me up with some texts on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. 715-830-1912. We'll take that first break, and we'll talk a little baseball. Coming up here, Bryce Terang, Reese Hoskins, Christian Yelich, Willie Adames, William Contreras, Freddie Peralta. Couple notes before we get going here, since it is draft month here. Head to we got a Facebook group page called Man Cave Conversations. If you're not a member of that, go check it out, because if I get enough yays on this thing, thanks to those who chimed in last night, posted it up late last night. One of those nights where you just can't, you got too much going on in your mind, thinking of too many projects and ideas and all that stuff. That was me last night. But anyways, posted up a thing on our group page there with the first round of the draft coming up here in just a few weeks. Do like a live kind of chat throughout the kind of pretty much chat room for our members on our Facebook group page, but for the first round of the draft, and just kind of shoot the chat about the picks and just kind of hang out and that sort of stuff. But go check it out. See, give me a yay if you're into. If we get enough yays, maybe we'll do something like that on the first round draft night there. Also, today is April Fool's Day. So, first of all, be careful and don't fall for a lot of stuff out there. But let's spin this a little bit and have a little fun, or turn it into, I guess, a sports conversation here. Who was the athlete, the player, or the team that fooled you the most? Like, maybe it was, speaking of the draft, maybe it was a draft pick that you thought, oh, yeah, this player is going to be a stud. They're going to be awesome. They're going to just be fantastic. Hall of Famer, championship, here we go. And then, fooled you. Was there a player? Maybe it was a free agent signing. Maybe it was a team. Maybe it was a team that you thought, oh, yeah, this year, easy. Going to get it done. And then nothing after that. So who was the player or the team? And it doesn't necessarily have to be your favorite. Maybe it was a team that you just thought in general, or a player you thought in general you thought was like, oh, yeah, that is going to be a fantastic player. And no, they got you. They fooled you. What do you got? Think about that for a little bit. I got one for sure, one player for sure that just keeps popping up in my head. I'm sure it's one of those, like, if I'm not thinking about it and it'll just pop up in my head randomly. But whenever I think about like this, there's one that always comes to mind. I don't know if it's the best one, but there's one that just comes to mind all the time. And this is kind of a personal pick anyways for everybody out there. So think about it for a little bit. Hit me up with the text on that, okay? All right. Let's get the lead off going here, shall we? Brewers finally got opening day underway on Friday, and boy, oh boy, they began their spring season with a little spring cleaning by taking out the brooms and sweeping the Mets, doing a little spring cleaning over there at Shea Stadium in New York. What a way to begin the Pat Murphy era. What a way to begin a new Brewer season with a lot of younger faces in play here. But shall we kind of go back a couple games here and go back to Friday's opening day for the Crew, where Freddie Peralta, man, I know he was kind of a question mark. He was for me for a little bit. Can he be the ace? Can he be that guy? Can he go out there and, take that next step in his career? Boy, if one game shows anything, he sure looked like it. Freddie Peralta, how about this? Teams to throw an opening day one-hitter, 9-inning games in the expansion era, 1961. This is from noted baseball statistician Sarah Langs. The 2024 Brewers, the 2016 Mariners, they lost that game. The 2015 A's, the 1991 Expos, and the 1964 Angels. That's it. That's it. Also, a couple other nuggets I think we got a couple of them here for your Are You Serious nuggets. Are you serious? Fun facts here. Couple of them here. This is from our good friend Dominic Cotronillo. I probably just butchered his last name, but our good friend Dominic, who we've had on the program before. Brewers post-game host, noted after that opening day game. That is the Brewers' 11th one-hitter or less since Chris Hook took over as pitching coach in 2019. That is the most in Major League Baseball. It wasn't that long ago. It felt like a lot of fans were like, "Oh, Chris Hook stinks. Pitching coach stinks." And you look at these numbers, and you kind of look at the last couple of years here. Dude knows what he's doing. The 11th one-hitter or less since Chris Hook took over as pitching coach in 2019. Most in baseball. It is also the 5th one started by Freddie Peralta. How about this? Jackson Cheerio. Since World War II back on opening day, there has not been a player to make his Major League debut on opening day batting first before his 21st birthday, The last player to start in their debut on opening day that's younger than Jackson Cheerio, some guy named Ken Griffey Jr. in 1989. So, yeah, since World War II, Jackson Cheerio, there has not been a player to make his debut on opening day who batted leadoff and all before his 21st birthday. So some fun nuggets, fun facts. Are you serious type of numbers from that opening day? But overall, opening weekend, I mean, you got a lot of things we could. How about here's another are you serious nugget? Brewers and Cleveland. Again, I know it's just 3-4 games into this thing. But Brewers and Cleveland lead the league in stolen bases right now. Brewers have 8 in 3 games. Cleveland has 8 in 4 games. Bryce Terang already 4 stolen bases on the season. If you remember, at the beginning or a couple months ago when Major League Baseball was doing some of their predictions, one of the dark horse candidates that they had for stolen bases leader was Bryce Terang along with his teammate Jackson Cheerio. But go back to Friday. Freddie Peralta was the story in that game, in my opinion. Give him a game ball. What a fantastic performance, going 6 innings, 1 hit, 1 earned run, that solo shot to Marte. 8 strikeouts, just 1 walk, and then the bullpen locking it down afterwards. 1 hit. 1 hit. Could quote Major League and good old Euchre in there, but I'd get fined. But Brewers 3-1 on Friday. They come back on Saturday, and it got a little close towards the end there. Got a little nerve-wracking. Maybe palms are getting a little bit sweaty, but the Brewers jumped out to 3 runs in the first. Mets made things interesting, putting up 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th, and then another one in the bottom of the 9th there. But nonetheless, Brewers picked up that win. DL Hall getting the starts. Again, the young fireball, Ricky Vaughn. No, just kidding. DL Hall going 4 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, just 1 strikeout, and gave up a home run there too. But Guerrero picking up the win by going 2 innings in relief after him. And that was kind of the Rhys Hoskins game. Picked up a home run after his Friday. Friday, where if you missed it, yeah, you missed out on the last couple of days. But opening day, slid in a second. McNeil didn't like it. Thought it was a little bit of a late slide. Was it a late slide? Yeah, you can make the argument it was. But benches kind of clear. Nothing too drastic or anything. Just a lot of trash talking and a little back and forth. So, of course, Mets fans don't like him. Don't like Rhys Hoskins. What does he do? He comes out and jacks a home run in the second game there. Ended up having he leads the team right now in RBIs over there. But 4 RBIs in that game in a 3-hit game and a walk too. Dude got thrown at, and that pitcher ended up getting suspended for 3 games, and thrown out in that game. So, and then yesterday, the Brewers trying to complete the sweep. You've got Colin Ray on the mound for the Crew. Could the Brewers do it? Could they get the sweep? And boy, did they do it. Colin Ray, a solid outing for, again, I think another pitcher that we had some question marks, didn't really know what to expect heading into this season. He goes 5 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, couple walks, couple Ks, and then how about Mr. Hudson? Brian Hudson going 3 innings. 3 innings, striking out 4, not issuing a walk, just a couple of hits, no earned runs, holding it down for the Crew. And they pick up a 4-1 victory to complete the sweep. Man, Pat Murphy, don't get any better than this, going 3-0 in his first 3 games as manager. Freddie Peralta looked like a dude. I mean, he looked like an ace. Rhys Hoskins is bringing, I would say, a little bit of energy, a little bit of, what shall we call it, kind of a mindset or maybe a personality that you're glad he's on your team and glad he's not on another one because maybe it'd get a little annoying for you. But Christian Yelich starting off the season with the home run, 5 hits. He's hitting .455 with a 1.265 OPS. Also, a couple RBIs for Yelly up there too. Willie Adames, .333. He collected 4 hits in the opening series. Jackson Cheerio, this kid, I mean, let's face it, he did make some catches a little interesting in the outfield a couple times over the weekend. But from the plate, 12 at-bats, 5 hits, couple RBIs, hitting .417 with 462 on base and 500 slugging, 962 OPS. Jackson Cheerio in there. You had William Contreras, .385, did strike out 5 times over the weekend, but hitting .385 right now too. And as I mentioned, Bryce Terang. You look at what Bryce Terang, a guy that we know has to get better at the plates. Started off pretty darn hot. 11 at-bats, all 3 games, hitting .455, a 1.000 OPS. And as we mentioned, 4 stolen bases. Brewers already showing their aggressiveness on the base paths. Stealing some bases. I just feel like this team, and again, I know it's just 3 games. It's baseball. We're going to go through the highs and the lows, and hopefully there's more highs than lows, but we know there's probably going to be at least a couple, maybe a few stretches here where it doesn't look like great baseball and that. But after this opening weekend, this is a team to me that, we had a lot of questions like, okay, how's this team going to look? What's going to be the philosophy? What's going to be the personality of the manager of this team? And in the first 3 games, I think you're kind of seeing this team playing off the personality of their manager. You got a Rhys Hoskins over there that ain't afraid to push the envelope, maybe is the best way to say it. You got a team that's aggressive on the base pass. It kind of fits that Pat Murphy personality, I think, that we've gotten to know a little bit more this year, but we've kind of been around. We got some glimpses of it, with him being a longtime bench manager for Craig Counsell. But it just kind of seems like, is this a little bit of a making up of the personality of their skipper? Willie Adames, after the sweep yesterday, saying we're just making a statement. We're making a statement that we're going to compete this year. There's a lot of people saying we don't have it this year. After this series, I think the guys, they know that we can make it happen. We're going to come every day with the right energy, and we're just going to try to win. We're just going to try to win today. We'll worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow, that's going to be the mentality the whole year. Pat Murphy also saying their game to compete, we stayed on it for 9 innings. I hope they understand that if they play all 9, it doesn't always matter how much experience you have, and it doesn't always matter if there's some pretty great players over there on the other side. It doesn't always matter. They can go ahead and can compete with anyone. So, I mean, I don't there's Yelich, by the way, what I liked, this series was just how hard everybody played. We played aggressive. Guys were making things happen. That's what we're going to have to do this year. The thing I took away from these 3 days was the way everybody competed on all sides of the ball. And the Brewers were fantastic. Were pretty darn good defensively too, making some plays. Bryce Terang I mean, we know about his defensive ability. We saw it last year, right? I thought he should have gotten some more praise or more attention for Gold Glove, but I think that's also a popularity thing and kind of wonder does offensive numbers, even though it's a defensive award, I think offensive numbers kind of play into it just because of the popularity part of it. But Bryce Terang making some plays defensively. They made some nice plays over the weekend too. As I mentioned, Jackson Cheerio made a couple of interesting paths to the baseball in the outfield. But man, if this is the version of the Brewers that we get the majority part of the season, they're going to the postseason. There's no doubt about it. They're grind it out. They're going to be, I think, a pesky team, and they're going to be tough outs. They're going to be tough outs. I know it's just the opening weekend, but man, that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to watch this Brewers team, wasn't it? That was the team that was just I had a different aura. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. It just had I don't know. It just looked like that group was having maybe a little bit more fun out there, playing loose and just going out there and playing ball. Just going out there and playing ball and playing with that mindset and that personality of their new skipper. If this is the version of the Brewers, obviously the wins, but I'm talking like the version, like the mindset, and this is the philosophy that we're gonna say or we're gonna see, being aggressive on the base paths, playing some fantastic defense, getting maybe a little chippy here and there, not afraid to do a little trash talking once in a while. Sign me up. I'm all for it this year. Let's go. Let's go. I like it. Not much you can not much I don't think you can complain about the Brewers from this past weekend. And if you are, I think you're kind of just nitpicking at that point in time. But what a fantastic, fantastic opening weekend for the Crew. Off day today, and well, they begin their home opener tomorrow against the Minnesota Twins. Twinnies got 2 out of 3 against the Kansas City Royals. We'll see if the Brewers can continue to ride their momentum a little bit. They got Seattle coming up this weekend too. Before they hit the road for a long stretch there. Cincinnati for 4 games next week. Baltimore for 3 games. We'll see if they go up against old friend Corbin Burns in that series. But man, it was just a fun weekend watching this Brewers team. And I don't know if it was just under the aura of opening day and opening weekend and that, but man, the personality was a little bit different. It felt like that team was going out there and having some fun, if that makes any sense. All right, let's take a quick break. Continue to send me some texts if you are sending me some texts on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912. Take that quick break, and we'll be back to finish up. First hour already after these quick words. Next Friday, already next Friday, believe it or not, we're going to be over at Hy-Vee for the second annual Carpet City Flooring Center Putting Challenge. Remember the putting green at Carpet City Flooring Center did a fantastic job building last year. It's back, baby, because we've got the Masters next week, believe it or not. So that's already going to be here. So we're going to do the putting challenge again next Friday. We'll be on location doing the show over there too, starting at 6 a.m. More details to come, but if you've got Facebook and such, we've got the event page over there, and we'll keep you posted on more updates and some fun stuff that we'll have planned for the day. But put on the calendars right now. Put on your calendars right now. Next Friday, April 12th, we'll be over at Hy-Vee doing the show live on location for the Carpet City Flooring Center Putting Challenge Year 2. Year 2. We've got Josh saying, looks like the Brewers have some swagger. I agree. C-Bomb, what a start. Hoskins is my guy. Love him already. G-Man, DK Brewers, awesome starts. Way to go to the crew. And I see stolen bases. And I see stolen bases is what I like to see. That is the key to win the game. P.S. Waits until we get Garrett Mitchell back. Go Brewers. And does Brandon's mom have a Brewers jersey on now? Because I do. No idea if she does. Brandon's mom, if you're listening, do you have a Brewers jersey on or any Brewers swag on? Let us know so we can let G-Man know over there. So crew will have the off day today as they get set for their home opener tomorrow against the Minnesota Twins. First pitch going to be around 3:10 tomorrow. So you got a couple day games. You got 3:10 tomorrow and then 12:10 on Wednesday, off day Thursday, and then they begin that 3-game series against the Seattle Mariners. All right, we will continue to talk some baseball throughout the morning, kind of recapping opening weekend and such. But if you could give me your first impressions from this Brewers squad from the first 3 games that we saw, some overreaction Monday. We're allowed to have a little overreaction, okay? I'm allowing it. We can have a little overreaction today on this April 1st. But what were some of the things that really kind of stood out to you personally from the Brewers in their first 3 games? Was it the mindset? Was it that maybe swagger that they kind of had, like Josh mentioned over there? Was it something else that kind of popped up to you? Let me know. All right. We'll get back to that here in just a skosh. If you're just joining us, it is also April Fool's. So, one, be careful. Don't fall for a trick if you got kids or anything like that. It is April Fool's, or Twitter or some weird Facebook post or something like that. But let's put a sports spin on it, if you will. Who is the player or maybe team that fooled you the most? Think about it a little bit in your memory bank there, kind of go back in your history. And this is just your pick. It doesn't have to be, well, I think the top one of all time is this. This can just be a personal pick for you. But what who or what team did you kind of think like, yeah, dang, you know what? I was high on that guy or that player or that team. Yeah. Future Hall of Famer, gonna get it done, and nope, or team you thought was for sure gonna go out there and just be dominant, and nope, nothing. Who was it? If you got a player, you got a team, let me know. One of the player that first came to my mind. So the player that first came to my mind. And I would have to think about it maybe for a little bit more to see if I can come up with some more players because I'm sure there are. I mean, I'm sure after every draft season, there was a player I was like, oh, yeah, man, that guy, heck yes. Stud pick. That one is that we just robbed everybody. And no. So there's a few players. But the one that keeps coming to mind for me personally was Dayton Jones. Remember Dayton Jones, drafted in 2013? And I think what really kind of like maybe I fell into it a little bit, because he was talking about, Reggie White and talking about, I think that might have been like one of his idols or role models, or trying to emulate him. And then you kind of, see some of the photos and you read a little bit about him. And you're like, oh, yeah, this guy is just going to be dominant in that 3-4 defensive end role. Just absolutely dominant. And I mean, he had glimpses, but didn't play to. I mean, he was a first round pick, so, and he only played a few years in Green Bay, then kind of hitched his wagon to a couple other teams after that. But nonetheless, it didn't live up to a first round pick. And I just remember in 13, because I think that was the Eddie Lacy draft too in round 2. But I remember watching that draft, and when they selected him out of UCLA, right? And, when they're talking about him, and then they throw up some of the videos and some of the pictures, I'm like, oh, this guy is going to be a stud playing on that 3-4 end. You got him. You throw a little Clay in there. It's going to be wreaking havoc on the opposing quarterbacks. We finally got a defensive end, a stud defensive end on that 3-4, maybe since Jenkins in 2010 when they won the Super Bowl. So Dayton is always a guy that kind of, and I'm not trying to pick on these guys or these players or anything like that, but I was just so high on Dayton Jones when he was drafted by Green Bay that I was like, yeah, I might have gotten fooled there a little bit. I got fooled there a little bit. So, and I'm sure there's other players if we come up with a list. That's why I'm throwing it out to you. Who are some other players? It could have been a free agent signing where you thought, oh, dude. I'll mention one from last year. We had quite a few Brewers fans last year, very high on Brian Anderson. Remember Brian Anderson, third baseman, play a little bit in the outfield. But we had a lot of Brewers fans say this is going to be a very, very good under the radar signing, and no, it wasn't. But we could come up with a big list and throw in a team in there too. I mean, maybe an easy one is the 2011 Packers when they went 15-1. I got fooled. I thought for sure. I mean, I had secured playoff tickets for the divisional round and the NFC Championship. It's like, dude, we're going. Went to the divisional round and Giants beat us again. But I had it in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, come on, we got this. We're going back. We're going back. You kidding me? Nope. Nada. So think about it for a little bit. Is there a Bucks player? Is there a Brewers player? Is there a Packers player? Teams? Or maybe just in general, maybe it doesn't have to necessarily be one of your favorite teams or one of your favorite players or a player from your favorite team. Dayton, though, to me is the one that always kind of stands out. Like, I was just super high on that guy. Super high on him. So, and I'll be honest too, like even when Amari Rodgers was drafted, I was like in that third round. Like I remember watching it. I'm like, can somebody please just draft? Can we please get a receiver? And Amari Rodgers still there. And I think, boy, who was it? Was it Kirk Herbstreit or somebody on one of the draft coverages I was watching? They were like, why is this guy still available? Somebody needs to grab him. Finally, Green Bay got him. And it was like, oh yeah, we got this guy, can help out in the punt return and all. Nope. Didn't work out either. Draft's a crapshoot, though, as we all know. Speaking of the draft, coming up next hour, we are going to kick off our NFL draft prospect series. Now that we are in the month of April here, we're going to kind of each day, each weekday, we're going to highlight either one or two prospects that have been heavily attached to the Packers, whether it's been by national mock drafts or just general chat amongst Packers fans. Okay. We're going to highlight two. I know we probably will be talking about two today that aren't number one on your board. That's okay. We'll eventually get to them. Okay. We will eventually get to them. So You don't have to text me and say, I don't like either of those guys. This is the guy. We will eventually get to all of them, as many as possible. But we're going to highlight a couple. We're going to talk a little offensive lineman, Graham Barton from Duke, and then Cooper DeJean from Iowa. Two guys that have been heavily attached to the Packers as a potential first-round pick. Offensive lineman, safety, defensive back. So give you a little bit of a scouting report and a background on both of those players. So when it comes to draft night in that first round, and we're going to kind of take a look at first round picks, okay, potential first round picks. But well, that way when it comes to April, what do we got here? April 25th, that first round. If one of those names are announced as the Packers pick, you're like, oh yeah, remember when we chatted about that guy a little bit. So we're going to get to that coming up in the next hour. Also, we got plenty of hoops talk here. Final Four set. Badger women's basketball in action tonight in their grade 8 matchup against St. Louis in the NIT. The women's Final Four in the NCAA tournament. We'll figure out the rest of the field tonight, including that big one that's probably going to have a bunch of records broken for viewership. Iowa versus LSU in a rematch of the national championship from last year. Men's wise, we know it's UConn going up against Alabama, and then it's Purdue taking on NC State. NC State, the 11th seed, still riding high, winning their conference tournament and using that momentum, and now they're in the Final Four. My kid actually had Alabama versus Clemson in the Elite Eight, and he had Alabama winning. He's still got 3 of his 4 Final Four. Ridiculous. Kid's dominated me for the last 2 years now. All right, we've got 1 in the books, 2 more to go here. Brewers fans, what stood out to you from this past weekend? What stood out to you from this past weekend? Overreaction Monday from the crew. What do you got? Okay. You all got an opinion? Let me know. Hit me up with a text. Second hour kicking off on this Monday morning. First day of April. Hopefully, you all had a fantastic weekend and you're ready to hit up a brand new work week here. We'll get back to some more baseball talk after the Brewers began their season by sweeping the New York Mets, doing a little spring cleaning to end the month of March over in New York. Off day today for the Crew before their home opener tomorrow against the Minnesota Twins. And maybe you are one of those that'll be on the bus, on the bus with us heading over to Milwaukee for the home opener. I think they've got just a couple more left. If you want to tag along, maybe after seeing what the Brewers did this weekend, and maybe you're in a little bit more of a baseball mode, but or mood, I should say. But now you maybe want to take advantage of that. Go to sportstalk1051.com or wiscotrips.com and get your butt on the bus going down to Milwaukee for a little Milwaukee versus Minnesota. We'll get back to some more baseball talk here. I'm looking for your overreactions / first impressions from the first 3 games of this Brewers season. What do you got for me? Hit me up with a text, 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. We're going to talk a little football coming up here too. Now that we are in the month of April 1st, we are just a few weeks away from the NFL draft. So we're going to start to kind of take a look at some prospects, some potential Packers prospects, guys that well, whether they've been in the national mock drafts or maybe they've been a popular name mentioned amongst Packers fans out there. We're going to take a look at 1 or 2 prospects every day leading up to the draft and kind of give you a little bit of a scouting report, give you a little bit of a background. What are scouts saying about these guys? So if Green Bay happens to use their first round pick on one of these guys, you can sound smart next to your buddy that you're sitting next to, or maybe sitting next to the guy at the bar stool watching the draft, and you can give them a little bit of background and impress them too. So, but we'll start that off here in just a little bit. We're going to talk some hoops here in just a sec. It is a weekend hangover, though, too, since it is Monday. What were the highlights and the lowlights from the weekend for you? Well, my easy highlight, the high from the weekend was the Brewers. I mean, there's no question about it. That was the easy one. Is the Brewers. Probably the low light, Marquette losing to NC State in the Sweet 16. I mean, NC State is just riding this wave of momentum. I can't believe there's still some out there who don't think momentum is a thing. NC State is another perfect example of why momentum is a thing. You can quote scientific stuff out there all you want. Anybody who's played any type of sport knows momentum is a thing. Momentum is 100% a thing, and NC State is riding that right now. They're in the Final Four, but Marquette losing on Friday night, and I mean NC State jumped out to a 13-point lead. They were up 13 after the first half, and never looked back. So Marquette, I'd throw that in there as kind of the low light. It's a low light, but at the same time, I don't want it to overshadow the whole season. But Badger men's hockey too, falling in their opening round, overtime in their tournaments. After a season of, you know, leading up to this, we didn't have high expectations. A lot of people really didn't know what to expect from this Badger men's hockey team. First year under Mike Hastings. They surpassed any sort of expectations Badger fans had on this hockey team. So I hate to say that it's a low light. So it's kind of like in between of the high and the low, because it's a low that they fell in their first round of their tournament game in overtime. But at the same time, they by far surpassed any expectations we had on this team. So shout out, I guess, to the Badger men's hockey team and the job that Mike Hastings did in year 1 leading that program. I mean, you want to talk about sky's the limit and higher expectations now? Oh boy, they're getting big time over there now too, and that's exactly what you want. So that's kind of my weekend hangover: the highs and the lows from this past weekend. Back to hoops. So for the men's side, we now know the Final Four. The four teams in the Final Four. UConn cruising on their way, defeating Illinois 77-52 to punch their ticket. You had Alabama taking down Clemson 89-82 to punch their ticket to the Final Four. So it'll be UConn versus Alabama. NC State, as we were talking about, defeating Marquette Friday, then yesterday defeating Duke, still riding high from their ACC Conference Tournament Championship, using that momentum, and now they go up against Purdue, who Purdue defeated Tennessee yesterday, 72-66. So a lot of people who had UConn versus Purdue in a national championship, I did. It's kind of looking like that. Can NC State continue that ride? Can they continue that momentum, though, and slow down Purdue? Can anybody slow down UConn? Can anybody stop UConn right now at this point in time? UConn goes and wins again. I mean, we're going to be looking at these last 2 years of UConn basketball and be like, what a stretch. I'd throw it up there with Florida. What they did was it 07 and 08, 06, 07, 08, somewhere around there. The Joakim Noah, Billy Donovan, Florida teams, when they went back-to-back, they beat Ohio State that one year with Greg Oden and such. But, I mean, UConn right now, last year they were on a tear, and boy, they're on a tear again. I wonder why a lot of us picked them as national champions over there. But couple, it was heading into that Sweet 16. You had 4 1 seeds still alive, 4 2 seeds still alive. Looked a little chalkish there. And now the Final Four ends up with just 2 1 seeds, a 4 and an 11 left. So that'll begin this weekend. The women's side, women's tournament, we know that South Carolina will be taking on North Carolina State, NC State. So the women's team also in the Final Four, South Carolina, NC State. We will know on the other side of the bracket who will be joining those two teams. Big one tonight that's probably going to just draw ratings galore, break a bunch of ratings numbers out there. A rematch from the national championship last year. Iowa, the 1 seed, Iowa, and Caitlin Clark taking on the 3rd seed, LSU, and defending national champions. And then another fantastic game, number 1 seeded USC taking on number 3, UConn. So we'll see who joins South Carolina and NC State in the Final Four. Will it be Iowa? Will it be LSU or USC or UConn? Maybe for a lot of Badger fans, they're going to be paying attention to a different game that's going to be going on tonight in the Great 8. Got Badger women's basketball still live in the NIT. They take on St. Louis tonight at 7 p.m. Minnesota women's basketball also still alive in the NIT. They're visiting Wyoming. That's at 7:30. So with the quarterfinals there, you got a couple Big Ten action in here. You got Vermont at Purdue, University of Louisiana Monroe versus Troy, St. Louis at Wisconsin, Minnesota at Wyoming. That's your NIT quarterfinals going on right now. The Grade 8. So we got some Big Ten representation over there too. How about that? So still some college hoops, some good matchups, some fun matchups coming up here. Bucks wise, so we got just 8 games left to go in this regular season, believe it or not. They picked up a win against the Hawks on Saturday without Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard getting the night off there. But looking at how things are in the standings right now for the Bucks as we start to wrap up the regular season here, they're still in that 2nd seed. If the Bucks, this is from Justin Garcia, who is the Bucks radio network analyst, he had tweeted out last night that if the Bucks go just 3-5 for the rest of their final 8 games, the Cavs would need to go 5-2 to pass them. The Knicks would need to go 7-1. When you look at the remaining 8 games for this Bucks team, you've got Washington on Tuesday tomorrow. Winnable game for the Bucks. Memphis on Wednesday. Winnable game for the Bucks. Toronto on Friday. Winnable game for the Bucks. These next 3 games could really kind of solidify them as, or really put them in that driver's seat as the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. Take care of your business this week, Bucks. If you're listening right now, win these next 3. Washington's not in the postseason. Memphis is not in the postseason. Toronto's not in the postseason. All those teams have been eliminated. Beat the teams that you're supposed to go out there and beat. Take care of business. Win these 3. That way, when you enter the final week, next week, you're in a position to where maybe you got the 2 seed wrapped up, or maybe you just got to take care of business with maybe just 1 game to go. And then you can kind of rest some of your guys, some of your main guys, Dame, Giannis, those 2 guys specifically. Because next week, you got some tough games. You got the Knicks, who are going to be battling it out for some positioning, even if they're not involved in a 2 seed. They could get up to a 3. They could fall as far as maybe even outside the top 6. There's still plenty of positioning going on in the Eastern Conference. That's going to be a tough game. Boston's going to be kind of like, I don't know what to expect in that Boston game. I mean, Boston's got everything wrapped up. Orlando, same position as the Knicks. A lot of positioning going on there. OKC, they got a playoff spot clinched, but they don't got that 1 seed clinched. Bucks got them on Thursday, and then they wrap it up against Orlando too. So take care of your business this week, Milwaukee. Get these next 3 wins against teams who are already eliminated from the postseason. Get it done. Put yourself in a position where you essentially have the 2 seed locked up. And then that way you can give guys like Giannis and Dame specifically a little bit more rest as they head into the postseason, as we head into the postseason. Okay? That's the best outcome there. All right, let's take a quick break, and then let's kick off our NFL draft prospect preview series. Need a shorter name for that. We're going to take a look at 1 or 2 prospects every day leading up to the first round of the draft, taking a look at potential first round picks for the pack. I get it. We all have our different ones. We're not going to hit all of them in one day. Okay, so if I don't hit up on your favorite player, eventually we will. But we're just going to take a look at 2 of them today. Graham Barton from Duke, the offensive lineman. Cooper DeJean, the defensive back safety from Iowa. All right, we're going to take a look at those 2, give you a little bit of a scouting report on those guys. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be back after these quick words. G-Man, if you're still listening, Brandon's mom, B's mom, no Brewers stuff today. Tomorrow for sure. Sporting granddaughter Emma's team today. Stetsonville Brad loved the small ball manufacturing runs, a bunch of stolen bases. Let's go. David also saying loved the aggressiveness from the Brewers. Hopefully, this is something that we will see all season long. Eric saying with the Brewers, loved the mindsets and the personality this team displayed in New York. Excited for this season. Hashtag overreaction Monday. I like it. Keep it going. What was your first impressions from this Brewers squad after sweeping the New York Mets? Keep the text coming. 715-830-1912. All right. So as we get to the bottom of the hour here, it is April 1st, which means we are inching closer and closer and closer to the NFL draft. We are just a few weeks. Where are we at now here? Okay, so we're April 1st. 1, 2, about 3.5 weeks away. We'll be 3 weeks from this Thursday, will be the first round of the NFL draft. So with that, let's kind of do a little bit of a Packers draft prospects preview series. So every day leading up to the first round of the draft, we'll either highlight one or two guys that have been either by popularity mocked to the Packers from national mock drafts, or maybe Packers fans have talked about them for a while now. If we don't get to your guy, we will. So you don't have to hit me up with a text or a message saying, no, don't like those guys. They got to go after this guy. It's just we're going through as much as we can. So be patient with that. But for today, we're going to take a look at two guys. We're going to take a look at two guys. One that has probably been, I would say, at least the longest, or one of the longest players that has been most popularly attached to the Packers. Cooper DeJean, defensive back safety from Iowa. And then offensive lineman Graham Barton from Duke. Let's start with Cooper. Okay. Let's start with Cooper here. Cooper, Iowa. Every time I want to think of Iowa or say Iowa, I just have Brian Balaga in my mind and how he did Sunday Night Football intros. But Cooper has been a guy that I think, since draft talk really started to kick into gear, like after the Super Bowl and such, Cooper has probably been one of the most popular, if not the most popular player, like mocked to Green Bay, whether it's been from national people or even Packers fans. Obviously, a need at safety was one big reason over there. Even with the signing of Xavier McKinney over there in Green Bay, I think we all know as Packers fans that they could use another one for sure, another starting safety over there. And you factor in that Jeff Hafley, the new defensive coordinator coming in, is a defensive backs coach by trade. Wants to play, press man coverage. Really wants, he talked about safety and how he wants a safety to be out there. So you factor all that in, and Cooper has been a popular name attached to the green and gold. It also helps that he played college ball in Iowa, not that far from Wisconsin. And we know the Packers over the years have kind of looked at some guys from Iowa and brought them in. Mike Daniels, Micah Hyde, Lucas Van Ness last year was a first-round pick from Iowa, for crying out loud. So the Packers, and I know Brian Gutekunst has talked about this too, where Ted Thompson is always kind of like those Iowa kids, those guys that played over at Iowa. So, heck, Josh Jackson, I know he was a player that didn't work out for Green Bay, but he was a second-round pick in 2018 for the Pack. So, Packers have a history of drafting quite a few Iowa players. Notably on the defensive side too. When you think about Iowa, you think about tight ends and defense and such. But in Green Bay's case, they've really kind of focused on the defensive side over there when it comes to their Iowa players. So what do what are the scouts saying? What are the draft experts saying about these players? And what are they saying about Cooper? One of the many things that you keep hearing about Cooper is just his competitiveness, his ball skills, his flexibility to play in a defense. He can play corner, he can play safety back out there. He's got experience at both, that versatility. And I think that speaks volumes to a lot of Packers fans when you talk about that versatility of a defensive back that can play safety but also corner, especially from everything that we have heard about Jeff Hafley and the Jeff Hafley defense. So you bring that in. You talk about, you look at, if, and I'm sure a lot of us probably remember seeing him play over the years at Iowa, whether it was the Badgers playing against them, or maybe you're an Iowa Hawkeye fan and you know you've gotten used to seeing him play from the last few years here. But he's kind of that player that just seems like you want that guy on your team, like he's a coach's dream. This was one of the things that was mentioned about him on his draft profile from an AFC scout. He's quiet and humble. He was always the best at his high school, and he has a baked-in confidence that you can't coach. He also gives you a little bit in the return game if you want to throw that in there, punt returner and such. And heck, he even played some gunner on special teams. So he's got these great instincts, this versatility that he can bring to a defense. Whether it's playing corner, playing a back end safety there. And one of the things I was reading over the weekend too, as we were getting ready for this, one concern that some scouts had out there about him was, is he a guy? Is he a player that, you got to put him in that right position, in that right defense to really get the most out of him. Because if he plays corner, he's more of a zone corner. And from what we've heard from Jeff Hafley, he likes man, and he wants to be aggressive with his corners. So even though he has that versatility of playing corner and playing safety, and he's got that experience of playing corner, could he succeed playing corner in this style of defense for Green Bay? Now, maybe the other point to this too is like, well, he wouldn't be a full-time corner. He would maybe just have to play it in certain packages. And that's fair. That's fair. It's kind of giving me maybe some flashbacks. I'm not comparing him to this type of career that he's going to have. But kind of like maybe a Woodson, Charles Woodson at the back end of his career, played safety, played a little corner. I mean, he was the definition of the title, just defensive back, where you weren't pigeonholing a guy into a corner or safety. Kind of like even maybe former Hawkeye, Micah Hyde. Safety, corner, experience in both. You just got to figure out where he's best suited for the defense. And I think if he's a draft pick for Green Bay, he's better suited as a safety, in my opinion. Because if Jeff Hafley wants to come in and be aggressive with his corners and play that man-to-man type of ball with his corners, sure, I'm sure you could throw him in there a few times, and it's going to be incredibly valuable to bring his coverage skills over and have that versatility. But I think he's best suited to play safety in this style of defense. I know he's coming off of an injury, broken fibula? Yeah, broken fibula. But everything you hear about him, he's kind of that guy, that type of player you just want on your roster. That type of player you want on your defense. You can YouTube it. You can YouTube his highlights, some of the plays. I mean, every draft prospect out there now Heck, even high school, college, pro, whatever. You can YouTube highlights of these guys, and you're going to see some of the plays that he makes out there. And when you look at the mock drafts when it comes to Cooper, I've seen him go as high as maybe just inside the 20, late teens, early 20s, where he's not there when Green Bay picks. And I've seen him there when Green Bay is available. And I've seen him where in some mock drafts, Green Bay bypasses him. So he potentially could be there. Will he be the pick for Green Bay? I mean, we won't know until, 3.5 weeks here. But I think he fits in this style of defense. I think he fits a need, especially right now when you look at the safety depth with the Packers. Yes, you just spent a boatload of money on Xavier McKinney. After that, who is it? You got Anthony Johnson Jr., who I like, but I mean, is he ready to come in? And I mean, he's a 7th rounder from last year. Again, Iowa State, another state of Iowa player. But you still need some depth over there. And the fact that he can help out in special teams, he gives you that versatility in the back end. He's kind of, I don't know, he gives me a lot of reminders of Micah Hyde. And dare I say, without the corner experience, dare I say a little Jimmy Leonard-esque type of thing. So, if he's the pick, I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't be upset. Let's go to the offensive side of things. Let's go with an offensive lineman now. Graham Barton, kid from Duke. Depending on where you look him up, you've seen him listed as guard. You've seen him listed as center. This is a guy, though, that has experience playing at different positions across the NFL. And as we know, any Packers fan knows, when it comes to offensive line versatility, you skyrocket up the Packers draft boards. He started in 2021, started all 12 games at left tackle. 2022, first team all ACC, started all 13 games at left tackle. 2023, first team all ACC, started 9 games at left tackle. And then in 2020, he actually started his collegiate career, 5 starts at center. So you've got the experience at center. You've got the experience at tackle. A lot of NFL peeps think he is more suited to play the guard role at that next level. So, I mean, you got a guy that's got that versatility. It just screams Green Bay. And that's why you see him mocked a lot to the Packers in that first round, back into that first round, sometimes even early second round if you're doing a little mock draft simulator and he happens to still be there. If he's the pick for Green Bay in that back end of that first round, I'd be okay with this too. Again, you're providing some versatility. Is it kind of like Zach Tom-esque, and this guy's bigger than Zach Tom. He's a little bit bigger than Zach Tom. But, Zach Tom came in as a rookie at Wake Forest. Center is at his best position. Well, now he's the right tackle, but he was getting starts at guard. Heck, he was even playing some left tackle, right? We saw Elton Jenkins doing the same thing, for crying out loud. He played some center in the NFL. They tried putting him at left tackle, right tackle. They tried making him a right tackle, back at guard now. Now you got another guy that gives you that position flexibility on this offensive line. An offensive line that has a need at guard, potentially has a need at center for next year. Josh Myers entering his final year. And at least last year, they gave him a little competition with Zach Tom in preseason and training camp. And left tackle, Is Walker going to be the guy? Is he the long-term solution over there? Or do they want to give him another year? But by drafting a guy like Barton, you put him in there, who's got a ton of snaps at left tackle. You at least provide a little bit of depth over there. May not be best suited to play left tackle in the NFL, but at least you got a guy that's got experience over there. I'm not doing my mock yet, but I'll tell you what, this guy's on my short list for a first round pick for the first round selection. I love the versatility he brings. He just screams. I mean, he just screams like that's a Packer player. That's a guy. And one of the things that on his draft profile from a scout says, so much fun to watch a lineman with that kind of consistency and effort on every play. He's the same player in every game. One nugget I really liked about him too when I was looking at the stuff last night, highly capable in the screen game. He's great at second level climber. Toughness, athleticism. That just screams like you're putting this in your mind now, right? Okay. Second level. Really good at getting at that second level. Screen game. Oh. Then we're hearing that, hey, Josh Jacobs might be involved, or they want to get him more involved in the passing game. It's like, oh, wait a minute now. Now you're starting to connect some of these dots. You got a guy that can get to that second level, can help you out in the screen game. You're bringing in Jacobs, getting him more involved in the passing game. Come on now. It just fits. So, if he is the pick by Green Bay, maybe he comes in. Maybe he's the starting guard, fills in for John Runyon, or maybe he has a battle with Sean Ryan. Does he come in and have a battle with Josh Myers for starting center? Maybe, it could be one of those situations where he comes in, starting guard this year, but then the following year, maybe he is the next starting center when Josh Myers leaves via free agency. Because I think it's fair to say Josh Myers has not really played up to what they had hoped he would be at that center position. And I think it gets highlighted a lot by Creed Humphrey, who was the pick right after him, and the success he's having with Kansas City. So there's a very good chance Green Bay is going to be looking at upgrading their center spot, whether it's going to be this year or maybe next year. And, he's going to be not a first-round pick, but we might as well throw his name in there. Another guy that could be that option is Tanner Bortolini from Wisconsin, who just blew out the doors with his combine testing that I think helped move him up at least a round, maybe even a couple in the drafts. And where he tested out is like a bunch of check marks that the Packers look at for all their players, the RAS scoring. But Graham Barton, both these guys, Graham and Cooper, just scream like, oh, those are guys that you can just easily picture in green and yellow playing in a Lambeau Field. They're two guys that they fit that. You got an offensive lineman who can play every single position. You got a defensive back. In the back end, you need a safety, but he gives you some versatility there. Gives me impressions, gives me reminders of a Micah Hyde. These two guys, if somehow they were even like the first two picks, like maybe Graham falls a little bit. I don't know. Maybe he falls a little bit and he's there in a second. They get Cooper in the first. Gosh, I'd be the most excited boy in the state of Wisconsin, probably. If somehow they came away with both these guys, but they just scream like they're typical Packers picks. I got to imagine these two guys, Cooper and Graham, are clearly towards the top of that board for Green Bay. That these are two guys that they've put a lot of work into, scouting, looking into, backgrounds, all that stuff. They scream Packer picks. And that's why you see them talked a lot about by Packers fans. When Packers fans are doing their mock drafts, you see those guys are on there. When you look at the national mocks, you see those guys attached as a Packer pick. They fit needs, but they fit what the Packers want to do. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll finish up the second hour here. Brewers fans, still want to hear from you. Give me your first impressions, your overreactions, good overreactions from the first three games that you saw from the Crew against the Mets. We'll hit that up. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Coming up just past 8 o'clock, we'll do a little local sports roundup brought to you by Amundsen's Appliance Center. Not a whole lot going on right now as we are kind of getting into the spring sports season and such, but we got a few things to highlight over there. So we'll get to that just past 8 o'clock. I'll do my best to fill in for JC in the EC, Justice Cleveland. So we'll get to that just past 8 o'clock here. Also, want to get back to some more baseball talk here. Your first impressions, your good overreactions. I say good because, I mean, there's really not a whole lot to complain about from the Brewers this past weekend, right? I mean, you go 3-0. Unless you're a Twins fan, I mean, you still took 2 out of 3 against the Royals. Give me your overreactions. Give me your first impressions from your favorite baseball team this weekend, from this past weekend. Whether you are Brewers or Twins or Cubs or Cardinals or whoever it may be. All right, hit me up with some text 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. We'll get back to some of your comments coming up a little bit later on as we will return to some baseball action or baseball talk coming up next hour. A reminder, no Brewer game today. They get a quick off day before their home opener tomorrow against the Minnesota Twins, the aforementioned Minnesota Twins over there too. So a little early border battle between the two ball clubs. Also, I was looking at today is April Fool's, so be careful. Again, just be careful in case you've got young ones who are going to come back from school and they realize too it's April Fool's and they're going to try to pull some jokes on you. Be careful. Or if you're online and you see some stuff, be careful. It is April Fool's. But to put a sports spin on it, if you will, and I guess it's kind of good timing too with the brackets going on with March Madness and such. But who is a player or a team that just fooled you? Like you thought they were going to be awesome and they really didn't turn out to be awesome. Was there a player? Was there, like we were just talking a little bit about the draft. Was there a player that your team drafted and you're like, oh, you were like so pumped about, you're buying the jersey right away. You're all like, just start sizing that man up for his Canton Hall of Fame jacket. Start to get ready to win a bunch of Super Bowls because this team is gonna just, dominate, and then nothing. You got completely fooled. Is there anybody that kind of pops up in your mind? Let me know. Okay, maybe it was with one of your college basketball picks this year. I don't know. Maybe, what do you got? So on this April Fools, let's put a different spin on it. Hey, I'll even throw it out this way for all you hunters out there. We've all gotten fooled once, right? Anybody got any good getting fooled by a whitetail or with turkey season coming up here in just a matter of days? First up, the youth and all that. Anybody got any good stories from the field of getting fooled out there? We've all kind of experienced it. I was walking in the woods yesterday, scoping out the turkey stuff. Found found a bunch of tracks and such, but you know what? That'll probably fool me, and I won't get one again this year. But, anyways, looking forward to kind of getting some of your picks and thoughts over there. Hoops wise, we'll get back to some hoops talk too. It's a busy night in basketball, or I guess it's been a busy last few days in basketball here too, because Final Four is set on the men's side. UConn taking on Alabama, Purdue taking on NC State. No big surprises, I think, for the majority. I use the word majority with Purdue and UConn in there, especially UConn. Surprises a little bit with Alabama and NC State, but NC State riding that hot hand right now. Holy moly. Do they got a couple more in them? Can they beat Purdue and beat whoever they would face in the national championship? So men's wise, it's all set. Women's, we've got a couple of fantastic games tonight in the Elite Eight games. Number one seed Iowa taking on the defending champs LSU in a rematch from the national championship last year. Got to imagine this is going to be a ratings spike, ratings galore. After that, you got number one seeded USC taking on number 3 UConn. Page over there at UConn. So another fantastic game. UConn looks like they're actually favored by 3.5 in this one too. So those two teams or those two games will decide who joins NC or South Carolina and NC State in the Final Four on the women's side. With the NIT, Badger basketball's in action. They're taking on St. Louis at the Kohl Center. Minnesota's taking on Wyoming. So you got a couple of Big Ten representations over there for the NIT, but Badgers are favored in the grade eights. Can they get to? Can they continue to move on? So then plus, we had the Bucks this past weekend picking up a win against Atlanta. They'll be back in action tomorrow night against Washington. These next 3 games, Bucks got to win them. They're games they should win. You're in this battle to get that 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. You're up by 2.5. You got Washington, you got Memphis, you got Toronto. Take care of your business. Get W's these games and maybe get in a position that you can rest a couple guys before the postseason starts. All right, 2 in. We got 1 more to go. We'll be back after these news updates. Third and final hour on this Monday morning coming at you. Hey, appreciate you all tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in from on this fine April 1st. Happy April Fool's Day, everybody. What do we got coming up in this final hour of the program? We're going to get back to some more baseball talk. Brewers, fantastic start to their season, sweeping, getting a little spring cleaning done in New York, sweeping the Mets. They'll be back at it tomorrow as they take on the Twinnies. So we'll get back to that. We kicked off our NFL draft prospect preview series for the Green and Gold last hour too. Took a look, at Cooper from Iowa, and then Burton from Duke, offensive lineman. We'll get to more, as I mentioned. We'll do more every day, one or two every day, leading up to the draft there. So coming at you tomorrow. If you missed those, by the way, if you missed those previews, we'll put them up on the latest episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. So if you got a few seconds, if you don't mind, it's so simple. Like go on Spotify and Apple. If you can click the 5 stars on there, and like on Apple, if you could give her a positive review, it helps other people find the podcast. The algorithms, those computer peeps out there, I don't know how it works, but that's how it works. So, and don't forget, click to follow and subscribe to that podcast too. So, all right, let's kick off this hour. I'll try my best to fill in for Justice and while Brandon does it on Fridays for us. But let's kick off this hour with a little local sports roundup brought to you by Amundsen's Appliance Center. Let's start off with the curling world. So if you remember one of our episodes of the podcast, we talked to Mark from the Eau Claire Curling Club leading up to this week-long event that we had this past week. The Junior National Championships, Curling Junior National Championships. Team A-Bear felt just a bit short. Just a skosh short in the Junior Curling National Championships. It was an 8-4 loss to, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, Team Senzali. But Team A-Bear, a team that has had a lot of success, not just locally, but nationally and internationally. If you want to know a little bit more about them, I highly recommend listening to our episode with Mark from about a little over a week ago. But he kind of talked about, the different tournaments that they won across the world and across the nation and such. These are a group of kids that are just fantastic and motivated and dedicated to being the best of the best here. So, but from the peeps I talked to and such, it was a fantastic week over there at the Eau Claire Curling Club. So shout out to Team A-Bear and shout out to everybody who participated over there. And I know they're probably a little disappointed that they finished as runner-ups with a 7-2 record at nationals, but nonetheless, that's going to be a team to keep watching on, not for just this year, but for the next few years there. And congrats and shout out to the Eau Claire Curling Club too for hosting this event that was pretty much a week-long event last week. I know a lot of work went into it and such, but shout out to all of you over there for a fantastic event. Let's go to the Blue Gold world. We had some baseball and softball this past weekend. So softball was going up against they were in Milwaukee. They were down there in Milwaukee, taking on the Milwaukee School of Engineering, the Raiders over there. And they got their series started up back on the 29th over there. They picked up a win on the 29th, and they picked up doubleheader on the 29th, 6-3 win, and then a 12-2 win on the 29th there. So, and then baseball, tough series going up against Oshkosh. But if you go back to the 29th, they fell 12-2. Was it a doubleheader on the 29th? Yeah, it was a doubleheader. First game, falling 7-4. It was a battle there, but and then on the 30th, yeah, and then they fell 12-2 on the 29th. Then they were back at it again on the 30th. Another loss, 12-2, and then the second game on the 30th, it was tight, but fell just a little bit short, 12-11 against Oshkosh. But as we know, anybody who's followed Division III and WIAC baseball, Oshkosh, they're a pretty solid program over there. I know our good friend Neil Abair played baseball for them. Shout out Neil over there. But this Blue Gold baseball team is going to be a lot of fun to watch this year and for the years coming up here. Coach Riley is going to do some fantastic stuff for that program. That guy, if you haven't had a chance to talk to him or learn a little bit about him, I know we did an episode of the Rolling with the Golds podcast with him. It was one of our first episodes, but Patrick Riley is just a fantastic baseball mind, fantastic baseball coach. This program is in really good hands, this Blue Gold baseball program. So this team is going to be a lot of fun to watch, not only for this year, but for years to come. There's no doubt about it. Lacrosse for the Blue Golds. They picked up another win against Edgewood College on the 30th. It was a 16-4 victory. They'll be back at it in a couple days on April 3rd, going up against Carthage College. All right, men's golf's going to be in action too. Coming up at the back end of this weekend, they're going to be golfing in some warmer weather and such at the IWU Invitational. And then women's lacrosse is going to be at Colorado College. Baseball be back in action this weekend too, as they take on Stevens Point, another really good program over there. And then looking at this weekend, you want to talk about national championships and maybe some high goals. Men's track and field, or I should say the Blue Gold men's and women's track and field teams, outdoor season starting to get into gear. I know they just finished up indoor season a little bit ago, but they will be at the Ashton May Invitational in Lacrosse this weekend. So I know on the high school side of things, we're starting to get into some track meets and such. Some of that has already been going on, and I know by the time we catch up again with Brandon on Friday, we'll have some of the prep games to kind of really deep dive into and kind of talk about, whether it's track and field, baseball, golf, tennis. We're getting into that season. We'll get there. But Brandon will be able to, after this week, give us a little bit more of a deep dive into some of the seasons that are just kind of starting and getting underway. But I know Brandon's got a new piece up at chipwa.com for your Chip with Steel, if you want to take a look at that. But the Chip with Steel kind of starting to if you haven't been kind of following along with the Steel this year, you look at it's kind of been a season of change, right? At the beginning of the year, new coach and a new general manager and all that sort of stuff. But you look at what the Steel have done, and they've been a fun team to kind of follow along out there too. So, but check out Brandon's latest piece. He's been doing a fantastic job. Our good buddy Brandon Berg, sports editor of the Chippewa Herald, he's been doing a fantastic job covering them like he does everything. But he's been, keeping tabs with them and keeping us all updated. They're currently fourth in the Midwest Division, 28 and 24, 28 and 24 this year. So, but yeah, they've been a lot of fun. And make sure you're kind of following along with Brandon. He's done, again, I can't say enough good stuff about our buddy Brandon. Don't tell him I said all this, but a couple weeks ago he won a bunch of awards. Shout out to Brandon. That man, you want to talk about a guy who does a lot and covers as much as he possibly can. That guy's always on the go trying to cover a bunch of sports out there too. So, but I know this past weekend, the 30th, was it Carter had the goalie Carter had a 33 save shutout. That's kind of that could be in the running for a little who cut the mustard tomorrow for race place. Really, if you think about it. So, but if you're looking at the schedule here for the Steel coming up, you want to check out some of their games, they got a couple more to go here. They got the Wisconsin Wendigo at Eagle River on the 6th, and then they're back at home on the 11th, taking on the Janesville Jets. All right, so let's get back to some more baseball talk, shall we? Brewers, first impressions. What was the thing that really stood out to you? What's your positive overreaction? Or if you're not a Brewers fan, how about your favorite team? Twins, take it 2 out of 3 against the Royals. Cubs, congrats. You barely avoided getting swept. Had to throw that dagger in there. I'm sorry to my friends who are Cubs fans. I had to throw that in there because I don't know how often I will be able to this year. But Brewers picking up 3 straight wins. Pat Murphy undefeated in his Brewers tenure as manager. The Brewers are on pace to go 162-0 this year. Fun fact, be the first time in Major League Baseball that would happen. A little sarcasm in there just in case you couldn't recognize that. I'll tell you my thing that really there was a few things that really stood out, but the one thing I was really, really, really happy to see, one thing I was really happy to see over the weekend, it's my number one thing. And if you've been listening to our previews, you probably know what it is. But in case you haven't, I'll tell you after we take this really quick break. And we'll get back to some more baseball talk coming up in just a few minutes. Can't ask for a better start to a season than what the Crew had this weekend against the Mets in New York. It's well worth the wait. We were supposed to get opening day last Thursday. Obviously got pushed because of the weather in New York. But hey, it all kind of worked out for the Crew, wouldn't you say? Brewers doing a little spring cleaning and sweeping the Mets 3-0. Pittsburgh, though, 4-0 too. So we can't even say the Brewers are number one in the division right now at this point in time. But nonetheless, 3-0. What stood out to you the most about this Brewers team, or what are some of your overreactions from this Brewers team from what you saw in the first 3 games? And we know it's just 3 games. We know it's just the first 3 games. There's 159 more of these things to go here. You're going to have a lot of ups and downs throughout the season, hopefully more ups than downs, but odds are you're going to have a few downs. The one, I mean, there's a few, but number one for me that really stood out that I was excited to see, and I hope it's something we see throughout the season, and it's something that we have been talking about leading up to this season that I personally hoped we would see more. I think a lot of Brewers fans were hoping to see more. It was my bold prediction that I thought we were going to be one of the top ones, that the Brewers were going to be one of the top teams in the entire majors to do this. Stolen bases. The Brewers in 3 games stole 8 bases. 4 of those came from Bryce Terang. Half the stolen bases came from Bryce Terang. The only other team that's up there with the Brewers are the Cleveland Guardians, who also have 8 stolen bases, but they played 1 extra game too. So at least initially, first impressions, it looks like if the Brewers get their runners on, they get the right runners on base, they're going to be aggressive on the base paths. That's what I wanted to see. One of my bold prediction for this Brewers team when Brandon and I did this, a week and a half ago. My bold prediction was that the Brewers would finish top 3 in all of Major League Baseball in stolen bases. I was really hoping that this was going to be a team that would utilize that speed that they have and be aggressive, stealing bases, moving runners around. And so far, just 3 games in, but so far, they've shown it. Bryce Terang, you want to throw that man in for having himself a weekend. You could go different points from this Brewers series. Freddie Peralta with a great start on opening day for him. 1 hit. The entire team just allowed 1 hit. You can throw in Rhys Hoskins. Rhys Hoskins is probably the guy that's getting a lot of the talk from this weekend. Hey, he backed it up with some of his play, but he's a dude that's not afraid to push the envelope and do a little trash talk or chitter chat against the other team. Christian Yelich was solid. Jackson Chourio got a lot of talk. Made some interesting lines, past making some plays in the outfield. But the dude racked up some hits. A solid debut, a good debut. So all of that. And yet Bryce Terang's probably maybe some Brewers fans like, oh yeah, that guy had like 455 over the weekend. Dude had 4 stolen bases. This is a guy. We know about his defense. Bryce Terang made some good defensive plays over the weekend. We know about that man's defense. We saw it last year. But if the offense comes around for Bryce Terang, he's not going to hit 455 all season long. We know that. That's not going to happen. But if this is a guy that's going to hit like 270, 280 up there, and he's going to get on base, and you're going to be able to utilize his speed for stolen bases, huge win for the Crew. 5 hits over the weekend. 4 stolen bases. That ratio right there, sign me up. Sign me up every single time for that. So I hope, again, this is just 3 games, but I hope Bryce Terang is a dude that we're talking about that, we know what he brings to the table defensively. But if that offense is going to start to come around a little bit, and he's able to get on base, and he's able to take an extra base here and there. This changes the landscape of this offense. And overall, I mean, if this team's going to be more aggressive on the base pass and stealing those extra bases, getting an extra base, putting a guy in the runner, putting a runner in scoring position right away, changes the offense. But overall, just a fantastic weekend. Fantastic weekend. It just, this team just feels like first impressions again, first impressions. But this team in the first 3 games seems like they're taking on the personality of their manager too, and Pat Murphy. I mean, we've gotten to know Pat Murphy obviously a little bit more this year because, well, now he's the skipper. He's been doing the media stuff. We got glimpses here and there of Pat Murphy as bench coach for Craig Counsell over the years. Seemed like a very well-respected guy within the organization. Players loved him. Seemed, once in a while we'd hear a really cool, funny story about Pat Murphy or a story that Pat Murphy told. I mean, sometimes when you see him and he's in the dugout or he's arguing, I mean, he looks like a guy you don't want to get into an argument with at times. Seems like a high energy guy, and it just felt like, in just that incredibly small sample size, that this was a team that played with the personality of their manager. They were aggressive. Whether it was stealing bases, they were playing solid defense. They had a little bit of a swagger maybe to them. And I hope this is a glimpse of what this team is going to look like throughout the season. I hope this is what we see. I hope we continue to see an aggressive, team on the base pass. I hope, hey, if Rhys Hoskins is going to play that villain role, as long as he kind of backs it up, continues to back it up like he did offensively, go for it. Heck, even the Brewers social media account was having fun with it, for crying out loud. Kind of like subtweeting the Mets, going after the Mets. I mean, it was just fun to watch. It felt like this team was just going out there and playing baseball and just having the right energy. Is that a reflection on a manager? Very well could be. But it's just, this is a team that's, in the first 3 games, from what I watched, from what I listened to, it's like I could get on board with this style. I can get on board with this team. It was just a fun energy. It was a solid debut for a lot of guys like Jackson Cheerio and, Freddie Peralta as the new number 1 ace. Here's some nuggets. You want some nuggets with this Brewers team, with some of these players? How about some of this? Opening day, Brewers allowed just 1 hit in their 3-1 opening day victory. It marked just the 5th time in the expansion era that a team allowed just a single hit on opening day in a 9-inning game. Just the 5th time. That's it. Here's some other nuggets here for you. We've got that is the Brewers from their 1 hit on opening day. Brewers, this is from our good friend Dominic, who hosts the postgame show for the Brewers on the Brewers Radio Network. 11th 1-hitter or less since Chris Hook took over as pitching coach in 2019. Most in Major League Baseball. And by the way, that's the 5th from Freddie Peralta. Opening day, going back to opening day, Jackson Cheerio. I was a little surprised when he was batting leadoff. I think because Pat Murphy was telling us that he was going to bat him towards the bottom of the lineup, and then the last couple of days he did. But how about this? Again, from our good friend Dominic. Since World War II, there has not been a player to make his Major League debut on opening day who batted first and all before his 21st birthday. The last player to start in their debut on opening day that's younger than Cheerio was some dude named Ken Griffey Jr. in 1989. Now, that's not to say Jackson's going to be Ken Griffey Jr., but a lot of firsts and a lot of history making. It was just, it honestly surprised me a little bit to see the team perform the way they performed. You know, it just felt like a different style. Again, the word I'll keep going back to is energy. It just felt like a different type of energy with this team. I don't know what other way to describe it. And I hope it's something that, again, it continues throughout the season. We got a long, long season to go here. But man, that was a fun weekend here. And you had other guys, like it was different guys stepping up, or there was like a different storyline in every single game. Game one, you could say it was the pitchers allowing the one hit combined. You could throw in a little Jackson Cheerio for his debut. Rhys Hoskins, game two, in game one, the little drama with him and McNeil at second base. What does he do in game two? Home run, 4 RBIs, collects 3 total hits. Game three, you had Contreras going out there, couple doubles. Christian Yelich had a solid weekend. And as we mentioned, Bryce Terang. But it feels like to me that this is a team, and we hear it once in a while in sports. We see that team, they play with the personality of their coach. It felt like that with the Brewers this past weekend. But man, it was fun. And I hope we continue. We had some small ball going on. We had some great defensive play going out there. Will Salmon, who used to cover the Brewers for The Athletic, we had him on. I can't even tell you how many times we used to have him on. He covers the Mets now for The Athletic. So he had a front row seat to the series this weekend. And he posted up his latest piece from yesterday. The Mets said they'd be more athletic and better defensively. That didn't show up in the opening series. Instead, the Brewers, David Stern's old team, offered a masterclass on what that actually looks like. Masterclass. High praise. I love it, man. I love it. If this is the type of team that we are going to see throughout, here's a bold overreaction 3 games into it. But if this is the type of team that we're going to see, and we don't know how, Jacob Junis is going to get to start tomorrow. How is he going to look? You got Ross that's going to get started on Wednesday. So, I mean, we got pitchers we haven't seen quite yet. But if this is going to be a team that's going to play with this mindset, play with this aggressiveness, this is a team that I think is going to be pretty darn pesky throughout the whole season, and could be a team that nobody's going to like to play. And I'm all about Rhys Hoskins playing the villain role. As long as he continues to contribute and he provides a little power in the middle of that lineup, go play that villain role. Just make sure you're still producing out there too. When you look at Major League Baseball after now opening weekend, I know they're terming it opening week. That's when you got home openers and such over there. You go to MLB.com and they've got are these reactions or overreactions? They don't say a whole lot about the Brewers. They talked about the Mets and the Mets freaking out, but no credit to the Brew Crew over there. I mean, come on, guys. What are we doing? Give them a little shout out or something. There was a piece up on MLB.com, one opening weekend takeaway for each team. For the Brewers, this team can still win without Craig Counsell. There was a general sense that the Brewers were not going to compete this year after winning the NL Central in 2023, in part because they lost their manager to the division rival Cubs. They're now already 2 games up on said manager because of an extremely well-rounded series sweep of the Mets on the road. The best thing they had going was their defense, even with new addition Rhys Hoskins, who was terrific the whole weekend, even when he was in the middle of all sorts of drama, making a key sterling play. Yeah, he made a couple defensive plays. And remember, when the Brewers signed him, the one knock on him was his defense stunk. Well, he made some nice plays over the weekend. These are the defending division champs. They played like it all weekend. Now let's see them continue to do this. Let's see them continue to do it against the Minnesota, Seattle. You got to go on the road. A big early 4-game road series next week against Cincinnati. And then Baltimore. Maybe you might be going up against your old pal Corbin. Not to look too far ahead, but you got a series against St. Louis on the road. 4-game series on the road against Pittsburgh yet this month. Yankees at home at the end of this month. Tampa Bay at home at the end of this month. So I think we're going to get a good first taste test of this Brewers squad. But a lot of things to be excited about just after 3 games from this past weekend. The energy from this team, the personality from this team, the mindset from this team, the philosophy from this team, and just certain players stepping up and playing some gosh darn good baseball. Give them credit to where credit's due. It's just three games into it, but god dang it. Freddie Peralta looked awesome. Bryce Terang had himself a good weekend. Christian Yelich looked good. Rhys Hoskins. Give him some credit. It was a fantastic weekend for the crew. And I hope we have some more fantastic weekends like this. Just a fun group to watch. And shout out to Pat Murphy, too, going 3-0. We talk about wild cards and keys to this team all season long, previewing this. Like, who's going to be the key pitcher to lead this team to the postseason? Who's going to be that key offensive player? Maybe the key was right in front of us the entire time. For a team that's got a mixture of a bunch of young, unproven players, couple veterans here or there, maybe at the tail ends of their careers, how do you get back to the postseason? How do you win the division again? Maybe the key was right in front of us. It's Pat Murphy. Maybe it's his philosophy. Maybe it's his personality. Maybe it's his energy that could be the key to this team going back to the postseason. Man, I hope this dude has some immense success. He's a guy that you just want to root for, and you hope that he just has a boatload of success. I love listening to that guy talk, and I love listening to his mindset and how he just loves his players, and it seems like the players just love the guy back too. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll wrap things up this morning. We got some picks and predicts. Got some college games tonight. Women's college basketball tonight. We'll throw in some baseball games to pick here too. So we'll be back in just a few minutes to wrap up things. Time for some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire, located right next to Banbury Place. Hey, maybe if you're looking to catch some of the games or maybe even some of the races over the weekend too, you can make some picks with the races over there at the Elbow Room. But head on over to the Elbow Room and enjoy yourself a nice, cool, crisp man cave lights. Let's do some college basketball games, women's college basketball games tonight, because we got some good games on the docket here. Let's start off with the NCAA Women's Championship Regional 2 Elite Eight. LSU taking on Iowa, a rematch of last year's national championship game. I know a lot of people didn't want to see this one this early. They kind of thought put them in separate ones, so maybe it's a Final Four or even maybe another national championship preview. But nonetheless, it is an Elite Eight one. Iowa favored by 1.5. I think Iowa gets the revenge. They pick up the W tonight. UConn, USC. UConn is the 3rd seed. USC is the 1 seed. I had USC in my Final Four, but I'm going to switch it. I think UConn and Page are just rolling right now. So give me UConn to advance to the Final Four, where we already know South Carolina and NC State will be playing each other for the chance to go to the national championship. We're going to do the women's NIT quarterfinal, the grade 8, because Wisconsin's still alive, and Wisconsin is favored in this one by 6.5 against St. Louis. It is at the Kohl Center tonight, 7 p.m. Give me the Badgers. Come on. Minnesota is also in action. They're at Wyoming, where they are a 2.5-point favorite. So give me the Gophers, too. A little Big Ten representation in the NIT. All right, let's do some baseball games here. No Brewers games to pick or Twinnies because they're getting set to face each other tomorrow. But Atlanta at the White Sox. Yeah, give me Atlanta on that one. Colorado at the Cubbies. I guess I'll go with the Cubbies in that one. Hopefully it's a jinx. Pittsburgh at Washington. Pittsburgh 4-0 right now. Give me the Pirates in this one. Kansas City at Baltimore. Give me Baltimore. You've got the Angels at Miami. I'll go with the Marlins. Cincinnati at Philly. Ooh, I'm going to go Philly in this one. Texas at Tampa. Ooh, give me Texas. Detroit at the Yanks. Give me the Yankees. Toronto at Houston. Ooh, another good one. Give me Houston. Boston at Oakland. Give me Boston. How many wins? That should have been a line. What is the line? I'll look it up later, but we should have did this one. How many wins for the A's this year? Cleveland at Seattle. Give me Seattle. Oh, wait, did I say Detroit at the Yanks? It's not Detroit at the Yanks. It's Detroit at the Mets, excuse me. So give me Detroit. No, give me the Mets. I think they'll get a victory because it's Yankees at Arizona. Let's go with Arizona in that one. St. Louis at San Diego. Give me the Padres. And then San Francisco at the Dodgers. Give me the Dodgers for that one. All right, those are your picks and predicts. Coming up in a couple weeks, we're going to have a contest on our fan cave on our website. Part of our picks and predict segment, where you have to predict who the Packers will draft with their first round pick. Or how about this? I'll phrase it this way, just in case they trade out of their first round. Who the first pick is for the Packers. We're going to have, I'll post that up a little bit closer to the draft here, but as part of our picks and predicts, you're going to be able to go online and predict who you think the Packers are going to make, who the Packers are going to make their first selection, their first pick. So I don't want to say first round pick in case they trade out and then second round. Then the answer is like, well, they make a first round pick. So the first pick. So look for that coming up here in just a couple weeks. Speaking of which, Matt Schneidman from The Athletic, who covers the Packers, posted up his second 7-round mock draft. He's got the Packers trading up for a player we just debuted on our Packers draft preview series, if you will, where we take a look at one or two players a day leading up to the draft, guys who have been attached to the Packers, whether it's been in mock drafts or fans just want to see the team draft this player in the first round. But Matt has the Packers trading up to number 19 to grab Cooper DeJean from Iowa. So, and then back to back, second round, pick number 41, going safety again. Jaden Hicks from Washington State. Then their 58th overall pick, Kieran, the offensive tackle from Yale. Pick number 88 overall, Bucky Irving, the running back from Oregon. 126, Eichenberg, the linebacker from Ohio State. I don't need to go through all of them on here, but okay. So, yeah, there you have it. We're going to be all over mock drafts. If you haven't already, they're all over the place. They're fun to look at for me, just to kind of get a perspective from others out there. I'll do mine the week of once we get a little bit closer. But now that it is April Fool's too, by the way, smoke season, as in, yeah, with the draft, don't believe everything you hear. Okay, like now it's Drake May's falling big time on the board. It's giving me flashbacks of C.J. Stroud from last year, and just a crazy flashbacks from C.J. Stroud where he was like going to just completely fall, and Will Levis was going to be the second overall pick, and Will Levis went in the second round, and C.J. Stroud was the second overall pick and ended up being offensive rookie of the year. So not saying that's going to be Drake May this year, but that's kind of where everybody's at now. So one rumor that, insiders believe that Washington's all in on J.J. McCarthy. You know, J.J. McCarthy's a name that's just skyrocketing up the draft right now. So be careful with all the rumors that you hear. Some could be true. Most are probably not. So when we hear some draft rumors, just be careful. Okay. So we talked. So we kicked that off. We talked about Cooper. We talked about Barton from Duke, the offensive lineman. We'll hit up one or two more tomorrow. We did our weekend hangover, the highlights and the lowlights from this past week. And my highlights, it was easy. It was pretty generic. But I mean, come on, the Brewers, for crying out loud. That was a highlight. My low was Marquette losing in the Sweet 16 on Friday nights. The kind of in between was Badger men's hockey. I didn't really want to put them as a low. They lost their opening round in overtime. Close game. It stinks, but at the same time, we had no expectations for that team this year. Mike Hastings did a fantastic job with this group. And now the bar is it's back to being high. It's set high. So I don't want to necessarily put them as a low. They're kind of in between there. Stinks that they lost their first game. But overall, when you look at that season, that Badger men's hockey team, what a year. So those were my highs and lows. We did some Are You Serious sports nuggets and such. A lot of it surrounding the Brewers there. We talked a lot of hoops. Bucks, just 8 games left to go here in the regular season. They picked up a win against Atlanta on Saturday without Damian Lillard. This is a big week for the Bucks, in my opinion, because you should win these next 3 against Washington, Memphis, and Toronto. 3 teams already eliminated from the playoffs. You're up 2.5, couple games over Cleveland right now in the standings for that 2 spot, for that 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. Win these 3 and then kind of be in a driver's seat to where maybe in those last couple games, you know, if it's against OKC and Orlando, where maybe you can rest Dame. You can rest Giannis a little bit. That way you try to get them as healthy as possible, as rested as possible for what is probably going to be a long and grueling postseason. When we're looking at the standings here, though, too, I mean, if the Bucks finish in that 2 spot, they're going to face somebody in that play-in from that play-in, teams 7 through 10. And currently, that's Miami at number 7. They're a half game behind Indiana. Philadelphia is currently in the 8th spot. Chicago and Atlanta. So if it were me, I know this is going to sound kind of weird, but let's say this is how it finished out. I hope Miami beats Atlanta and Philadelphia beats Chicago. Philadelphia is the 8. This is assuming Joel Embiid's back. And Boston's got to play Philadelphia with a healthy Joel Embiid. And a well-rested Joel Embiid in the first round. That might be asking in a little too much because I know Miami kind of likes to get we know the history between Miami and Milwaukee too. I get it, I understand it, but I don't want to play Philadelphia in the first round. If that were to happen, I don't want to play Philadelphia in the first round. I don't want any part of that. But right now, still Boston, number one. They're the only team in the Eastern Conference. We know the teams that are going to be in the postseason for the most part. Brooklyn is still hanging around. They're the one team outside the top 10 that has yet to be eliminated. They're 5.5 back from Atlanta, who's in that 10 spot. So, I mean, in the next couple days here, we're going to see a boatload of teams clinch spots. It's just there's a lot to be decided yet in terms of seedings and positionings, both in the Eastern and the Western. Oklahoma and Denver have clinched playoff spots. Minnesota is close. I mean, Minnesota is the 3rd seed right now, and they're just a half game out from the 2 seed, and we're just 1 game out from the number 1 seed. So, I mean, you got a race between those 3 teams to see who's going to be the top seed, going to be the 2 seed. Then after that, you got another race. You got the Clippers and Dallas and New Orleans, 4th through 6th. And then you got another one there, 7 through 10, Sacramento, Phoenix, Lakers, Warriors. Houston still holding out some hope. They're 2 games out from the Warriors for that final 10th spot. So a lot of positioning still to be played in the NBA with the final 2 weeks coming up here. So we'll talk more Bucks tomorrow, looking ahead to this week and that game against Washington tomorrow night. So we'll hit that up. Obviously, we'll know if the Badger women's basketball team is moving on. We'll have the women's college basketball Final Four set. We'll preview Brewers versus Twinnies tomorrow. All right, let's get a little fun trash talking going on. I know we got some Twins fans that listen. So let's have some little fun bantering back and forth. JR, if you're listening right now. But Brewers Twins, home opener for the Brewers tomorrow. We'll definitely be talking about that, hitting that up. We'll continue our Brewers draft position preview series, whatever the heck we're going to be calling it. So we'll highlight another player or two coming up tomorrow. We'll catch up with RJ Cardinal too, all things Badgers, with him, kind of recap the hockey season and such, and get his thoughts on the AJ Store and all the other guys that's entering the transfer portal for that Badger men's basketball team. Seeing Joe Krabbenhoff too. Joe Krabbenhoff's getting some mentions about potentially being a head coach somewhere. So we'll see if he's going to be on the move at any point in time soon. DP and the Danettes, they're up next. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your day. Let's do it again tomorrow morning, all right? Just past 6. Thanks for hanging with me this morning. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.